Welcome to your local community education podcast, where you can make a difference and be heard. Each week, get updated on current local, state, and national educational news. Your Voice, Your Choice podcast with your host, Harmony Vanderhorst.
Welcome to the show today, everyone.
I'm Erica Hodges.
And I'm Dana McCabe.
And we would like to welcome you, and we're grateful you're here and listening. So our victory minute for today, these are a list of schools that we've had parents reach out to us and say that they would take the initiative and start looking in their schools and investigating to see what type of books they have. And those schools are Three Falls Elementary and Hurricane Elementary, Hurricane High School, Crimson Cliffs High and Crimson Cliffs Middle, Washington Fields Intermediate, Sunrise Ridge, Pineview High School, and Dixie High School. And out of so that's about 9 schools in our district, and we have 54. So we're a little over 10%-ish.
Hey, that's awesome for the call out from last week.
And we are excited about that because it not only every one of those schools matter, but it also gets parents involved and gets them understanding what's going on in their schools, and so they feel attached to it and they want to see the change as well. So that's awesome. And then we also had some questions too. Didn't you guys get some questions from parents as far as what does it mean if you volunteer to help with the book review?
Yes, and most of the parents that I talked to personally had no idea still about the books being in there, and then when they found out, they of course wanted to help. So we can send the list out to people so they can go to their library and talk to their principal and their librarian, and you can even email them if you wanted to start that way. Or I would prefer if the parents would go in, if they could do that in person.
Yeah, and I think going in person is awesome too. I recommended to my parents, send the list. We can send the list to you, but send the list to your librarian, then CC your principal on it, and just say, hey, I'm a concerned parent. I want to know if these books are in the library. And then say, I will be coming in the school on Wednesday. I drop my kid off. That's a great day for me. Or is there a time I can meet with you? And so you can show me how the library works. When is my student coming in? And show me how the Sora digital library works too. I've had my kids in the school system here a long time, and I think I just barely learned how Sora works like 3 weeks ago. So
you're a little bit ahead of me. So is that a good investigative tool to find out what's in there?
Yes.
Do that.
Yeah. I found a lot with my daughter showing me how to do it. She got on at night at our house, and so we went and looked through, and that's when I was like, yeah, there's definitely some books in here that I'm questioning for sure whether they're good. And then I told parents too, I said, if some of these books that are on this list, if they pop up in your library, read them. Like, don't take our word for it. Get it out and read it and find out if you think it's appropriate or not.
I think it'd be great if our superintendent pushed for what he was talking about in his press release about a rated system.
Yeah, I think a rated system.
That should be a national push.
Yeah, it totally should.
And I think with the new policy that they're trying to create, maybe, and the emails of notifying parents, I think they're going to need to have that rating system just to help.
Yeah, I do too. So on the agenda for today, we're going to talk about local, state, and national educational news. Are we going to get an update on the letter for our district, or we're just waiting until next week to hear from that?
Still waiting.
Okay,
I'm waiting.
We'll just leave it at that. And then for our deep dive topic of the day, we're going to talk about the new sex ed videos that the district approved. We're going to listen or watch one of them depending on what platform you're on, and then we're just going to discuss that a little bit so you can be aware of what's in the school for the sex education that's going on. Our local news minute, the board meeting's actually been changed. It's January 31st at 5:15. Those usually last hour and a half?
Yeah.
Maybe 2 hours. They're not that long. You can't comment, but it's a super good meeting to attend. We are trying to push for 2. And if you have a minute, this is a great thing to reach out to your representative or your principal, people that have to do with the state or with the school board. We would love for those meetings to go virtual so that you can listen no matter where you're at. Because some of us, we have part of our school district is Clear Out and Enterprise. And for those people to come in town, that's a lot, especially with kids, school activities. But it is very beneficial for parents to listen and to be involved. So we're pushing for that to have our own YouTube channel and to make sure those are available to parents in all different kinds of platforms.
It doesn't seem like it would take much money to make that happen.
I just don't think that there's been
a call.
Parents. there really hasn't been a really request, and so people haven't really felt a need for it, so they just haven't spent time on it. So we're pushing for that. And then we have a COVID update. This was as of yesterday, so it could have changed by today. Did you want to do that, Erica? Or did you want me to?
Go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah.
Pineview High School was in the red numbers. And did you just get this off the Washington County website?
No, that was on the news.
Oh, this was, okay, so this is from the news. So Pineview High School was in the red. We're not as concerned with these numbers because, so how they rate the schools, depending on your school district. So our school district down here actually uses the health department's numbers. And so in order for the health department to get COVID numbers, people have to be tested at like
Confirmed test.
Test. So like at a medical, like a tent or a building or somewhere. It can't just be like a home test you bought at Walmart. You called the school and said, my kid has COVID because of this test. They have to be confirmed numbers, and then it's reported to the health department. And that's the way our school district works. There are some school districts up north that they go off of reporting from parents, not from concerns. So typically, if a school or a school district uses self-reporting numbers, their numbers are a lot higher than the health department. And so we actually
so grateful that they've
Yes.
decided to do that and that Dr. Blodgett is supportive of that with the health department.
Yeah.
So thank you.
we feel like that's more efficient to do it that way.
More efficient, probably more accurate too, because flu season.
Yes.
And then the biggest concern, though, so with our school district, and Larry Bergeson kind of explained this last time too, our school district is not pushing, nor do they want to do some kind of district-wide closures if numbers got too high. They are looking at schools individually, and the main purpose for that is to, when it starts to affect bus drivers and teachers and staff, when it gets to a 25% capacity where it's affecting at least 25% of the staff, then they will look at going to online learning.
One thing that he also mentioned too, if you follow the UK curve, we should be really close to having it drop off, and
starting almost next week, right?
Yeah, almost like a cliff.
Yeah.
If that data plays out,
we should be out of the woods here shortly. So, and then the boundaries for the school district representatives for next year, as far as what district you can run in and where the districts are, those still have not been finalized. We're hoping those will be finalized by the end of the month, which is by the end of next week. We're hoping to hear for that. And if you or anyone you know would like to run for school board or is interested in it, we would love to hear from them. So please reach out to us.
And it'll be a short window to declare.
Yes, it will be. It's just a few days. And then also, we want to check up on you. Have you joined the Utah Parents United? If you have not,
I have.
Today, after listening to the show or whenever you do, get online, get on their website, Utah Parents United, sign up for that, sign up for the text and email alerts. We really try not to overuse those, but there'll definitely be a lot of updates during this legislative session. And then our state news is the test to stay has been suspended. So there was we have never even done it down here in Washington County, correct?
Nope.
There was a policy where if you wanted your kid to stay in school, you were going to have to continually test them to be able to stay. That actually has been suspended statewide until the legislature can meet next week and redo the test to stay legislation. So they're trying to figure that out right now. There are some schools up north that have closed, but they cannot close unless they have an open meeting to the public, and they have to determine that it is better for the schools and better for the children if they do go remote learning. And
we've seen the governor come out in his office about basically don't test if you don't feel well, stay home. And I'm not sure what the strategy is, maybe because they don't have their hands on the test yet, or they just realize it's kind of
common sense.
Yeah.
Stay home if you're sick.
Yes.
Yeah.
Come back when you're better.
And so the main and same.
Sorry.
We have people that are sick in here. Just kidding. And the main concern too for up north is staffing shortages, and so that's what they're.
And I've seen UPUs also put out a call up north about parents getting involved. I mean, there is background checks and all that would go into play, but to help the schools out going forward, they would have to be vetted or whatever, but be able to fill in as substitute teachers.
Yeah, and they're trying to figure that out. Okay, national news.
National news. So I learned something this past week, and I don't know how I missed this. Maybe it was because of the holidays, but on November 17th, there was a Committee on Education and Labor in the Republican Party. They put out a Parents' Bill of Rights. This committee, which consists of Republican lawmakers, including Representative Burgess Owens of Utah, was officially rolled out to ensure parents have the influence and transparency they deserve in K through 12 and to hold the Biden administration accountable. Speaking of which, there are now 41 Republicans calling on the Secretary of Education, Cardona, to resign over that letter. They had a roundtable this last Tuesday that I sat in on that was live back in D.C. And here's some of the things that the committee members stated in that roundtable. They believe that the left is putting bureaucracy and democratic leftist ideology first and students last. The largest union, the Teachers, American Federation of Teachers, has increased its political spending 400% since 2005. They went from $3.7 million to $20 million in 2020. Guess what party 99% of those dollars went to? Yeah, we can guess. Schools were being hijacked, teaching anti-Americanism, far-left ideology, and advancing the COVID agenda. This committee wants to know where all the money went for these schools because they never opened. They state the Biden administration allowed for radical teachers unions to dictate to the CDC school opening guidance. Interestingly enough, there was a direct correlation of how the schools were open. Where there were active unions, those schools were shut down. Where superintendents made the decisions and teachers wanted to teach, they made those decisions. So
now, was that a national survey that they did?
Yes,
okay.
A national survey, and that showed that blue counties across the country that were pushing masks and vaccines were the ones that were closed, and the schools that were opened were in red counties that were not.
Now, is that for last year's school year, or
Yes.
is that for this year's school year as well? So this is retroactive. So it's like what happened last year.
Yeah, because they're reviewing what it caused them to go back and look at everything that transpired while schools
and this would have been
closed.
the 2020 to 2021 school year.
That's
Okay.
correct. Many places, and they say there was a lot of political agendas being pushed. Meanwhile, we're losing a generation in education. Thankfully, we didn't really experience that because here we were open, but there were so many places across the country that were not open. This committee, the committee members, they went on and on. It was about an hour Zoom, praising parents, saying you have to show up to school board meetings. This is a parent revolution. Quite to the contrary, where the Democrats were trying to shut down parents going, the whole NSBA thing. And they're like, parents are really changing what is happening in education, and they just encourage us to continue to be involved, like what
That's
we're doing
awesome.
here and what's going on with Utah Parents United. Just a few of the things that were said, but those were just a few of the things that were said, but it was night and day from what we're hearing from the leftists who are pushing agendas. I don't know if you guys saw it was in the national news came out over last week, in the Democratic Party in Michigan said parents don't have a right to be involved in their kids' education, that we can send our kids to private schools. I think they forget who pays the bills. But anyways, they were forced to take that down because of the backlash. Closing out a little bit about this bill, I don't think it's going to we won't see anything until probably 2023 if the election turns, but they did say we don't need to wait for elections to turn as far as this parents being involved, because all this stuff is local. We watched what happened in the Virginia race. So, but as far as this bill goes, I don't imagine that it will get Democrat support for a Bill of Rights for us parents, which is kind of weird to me because I would assume that they're parents and
they would want the same. They would want the same thing.
And so they do have a fact sheet out on what's actually in the bill, because the bill is actually 20 pages long. I'll just give you just 5 things that they highlighted on the fact sheet, and it is that parents have a right to know what's being taught and to be able to see all reading material. Number 2, that they have a right to be heard. They also have a right to see the school budget and spending. They have the right to protect their children's privacy and also to be updated on any school activity. The committee realizes, as we all do, parents' involvement is critical to a child's academic success. I do recommend, if you do want to actually take a look at the bill, it's at the republicanleader.gov/Parents Bill of Rights. At 20 pages, there's some great stuff in there. Maybe we can post a fact sheet on there that has those 5 things and what that really means.
Yeah,
But
that'd be awesome. And this is coming from a federal level, correct?
yep. Yeah.
And this, just so you know, Utah's laws pretty much outline.
Already in there.
It's already in Utah's laws. We live in a great state
Right.
because we are a for parents' right state. If
Yes.
I said that right. So these are just double supporting what we already have here in Utah.
But it would help to stop I mean, insofar as it would help us, is if you have a Parents' Bill of Rights, it'll stop the teachers' unions, because obviously in southern Utah we're a little differently, but there's stuff that goes on. I mean, the USBA, USB, they all still do reach us a little bit by default.
Not as much as other places.
So, and so it's actually called Parents' Bill of Rights Act. So it would be an act that once it was voted through. But it was a great roundtable. They had parents from all over the country on
and
there.
maybe we can post that link too. It's something that is on YouTube.
Yes.
Okay, that we'll post that. It's something that you can get on and listen to as well. I probably need to listen to that too.
Yeah,
It would be good too to see where our legislators stand. So when they do a roll call vote, to know if they supported
this or not.
something or not.
Yeah.
Hey, Burgess Owens is on there of Utah. I mean, I know he does it.
And maybe we'll follow up on that too. We'll find out who votes and how they vote and how this is supported by the rest of Utah legislators too.
And another thing I'll be watching is that symposium on equity. I'll see what I can find out. That's supposed to be this weekend.
Perfect. Okay, our last part, we are gonna watch a video a few weeks ago. They passed some new sex ed curriculum, and we just want parents to know what's going on, even if you opt your kid out. And so we're just going to do a little bit of discussion, and then we're going to let you come to your own conclusions after you watch this. So,
And this is here in Washington.
this is
County.
Washington County. Yes.
If you're still struggling with consent, just imagine instead of initiating sex, you're making them a cup of tea. You say, "Hey, would you like a cup of tea?" And they go, "Oh my God, I would love a cup of tea, thank you." Then you know they want a cup of tea. If you say, "Hey, would you like a cup of tea?" And they're like, I'm not really sure. Then you can make them a cup of tea, or not, but be aware that they might not drink it. And if they don't drink it, then, and this is the important bit, don't make them drink it. Just because you made it doesn't mean you're entitled to watch them drink it. And if they say, "No thank you," then don't make them tea. At all. Just don't make them tea. Don't make them drink tea. Don't get annoyed at them for not wanting tea. They just don't want tea, okay? They might say, "Yes, please, that's kind of you." And then when the tea arrives, they actually don't want the tea at all. Sure, that's kind of annoying as you've gone to all the effort of making the tea, but they remain under no obligation to drink the tea. They did want tea, now they don't. Some people change their mind in the time it takes to boil the kettle, brew the tea, and add the milk. And it's okay for people to change their mind, and you are still not entitled to watch them drink it. And if they are unconscious, don't make them tea. Unconscious people don't want tea, and they can't answer the question, "Do you want tea?" because they're unconscious. Okay, maybe they were conscious when you asked them if they wanted tea, and they said yes, but in the time it took you to boil the kettle or brew the tea and add the milk, they are now unconscious. You should just put the tea down, make sure the unconscious person is safe, and this is the important part again, don't make them drink the tea. They said yes then, sure, but unconscious people don't want tea. If someone said yes to tea, started drinking it, and then passed out before they'd finished it, don't keep on pouring it down their throat. Take the tea away. Make sure they are safe, because unconscious people don't want tea. Trust me on this. If someone said yes to tea around your house last Saturday, that doesn't mean they want you to make them tea all the time. They don't want you to come around to their place unexpectedly and make them tea and force them to drink it, going, "But you wanted tea last week," or to wake up to find you pouring tea down their throat going, "But you wanted tea last night." If you can understand how completely ludicrous it is to force people to have tea when they don't want tea, and you are able to understand when people don't want tea, then how hard is it to understand when it comes to sex? Whether it's tea or sex, consent is everything. And on that note, I'm going to make myself a cup of tea.
That's so bad.
Okay, so what are your thoughts, girls?
Imagining my 15-year-old watching that video and just trying to put two and two together.
Yeah, it was pretty bad.
Well, so I originally, when I watched it, I was like, okay, so I mean, is it really that bad? I mean, kids can understand a cup of tea. I think culturally speaking, I was like, why are we showing kids in Utah about a cup of tea? Like, I can understand if you're English, this is part of your culture, it's like a big thing. Maybe the comparisons there are a little bit more to their understanding. And I was thinking, for all the digital age we have and all the resources and all the things we have available, we're picking a cup of tea for
It's the accent. They thought it would sell better with that English accent.
The accent, the graphics, all of it.
So that was my first thoughts. But then when I really started to think about what is the narrative that we are sending to our kids? What do we want them to learn first? And then my second question was, are teachers, are they educated enough? Do they have the right resources? Do they portray what we want our own individual children learning? And is there a way to vet that process? Is there a way to know exactly what goes on in the classroom and see where this kind of discussion goes? So that was a red flag for me too. And the other thing too was the narrative I feel like that's being portrayed here is everybody's going to have sex. Everybody's doing it. I mean, it's just like we pass by and it's like, you're having sex and you're having sex and you're going to have sex. And I get that there's this.
And that's not the same as having a cup of tea.
Yes. And so it is a thing among teenagers today. I do feel like we need to talk about it. We need to talk about it as parents. We need to talk about it in the school. But the other narrative that we're not talking about is, how about there are some people that do wait? There are consequences emotionally, physically, mentally. You are engaging in an act that is a lifelong decision. It isn't just as simple as, let's just have a cup of tea. And so that, to me, that was the most disturbing fact, that we're comparing it to something that's so everyday and we do it all the time and it's just not a big deal. And so I felt like the comparison, that was one of the things that was most disturbing to me.
And well, just the video that they used, the dumbing down of it, like you're comparing that to, like, kids aren't smart enough for you to, that you got to use a cup of tea, but yet we're talking about such a serious issue. For me, that is a complete disconnect about, what was
You have a comment?
I want to jump in here.
Okay,
the video is not about sex.
It's about consent.
It's about rape.
But we don't use that word though.
I just did. So the video's about rape.
Okay.
That's my viewpoint.
And so too.
And what is and what isn't rape.
Okay, and to that. So, but we're putting kids in a position and we're going, you're going to put yourself in this position, so this is what you do. How about this is from my perspective as a parent. These things do happen. Kids do get themselves in these situations, but this is what we can do to prevent that.
On what side of prevention?
Well, and in
Utah,
Utah,
is it the hey boy, don't act this way, or hey girl, don't dress that way?
Exactly. None of those things are discussed in the video too. And
it was
so
about a cup of tea.
Yeah, it's from what I saw in the video was, if somebody doesn't want to do this activity,
don't
force them.
And in Utah, we have to teach refusal skills. Like legally, when we're talking to kids in school about sex, we do not teach consent because they cannot legally consent to sex as minors. And so from education point of view, we need to make sure that we teach our kids
because we've ran into that too before. Well, kids are going to be in that, so you have to teach them to say no. That actually, the way the law is written, it needs to be taught in the home. It isn't actually something that we teach in the school system. And if parents don't like that now, and if they didn't realize that, now they know this is the law. And if you want to change it, the people that you change it with are your legislators and the people who are writing about education. So that you bring up a whole nother very good discussion, another topic.
We could go a whole nother half hour just on that.
So the reason we wanted to bring this up is for you parents to think about all those things. Think about the rape aspect of this. Think about, are we encouraging and telling kids they're going to have a time when they pass out and they're not going to be conscious? What kind of activities lead to that? We don't discuss that. Is there anything else I'm missing you guys want to bring up?
I don't think so.
Hey, well, thank you guys for listening today. We want to remind you to subscribe, get on YouTube. We have a podcast platform on Facebook, and get involved with your school so that you know what's going on.
Check out that video again.
You've been listening to Your Voice, Your Choice podcast with Harmony Vanderhorst. Like and follow our Facebook page, subscribe with your favorite podcast platform, and most importantly, share this with your friends. Till next time, this has been Your Voice, Your Choice podcast with Harmony Vanderhorst. This has been a production from a podcast studio.